distinct birthday pleasure to present twice to 150 odd people, which is not always on the list of things that I wanted to do on my birthday, but besides the point, we'll get on with it. Look, mine's going to be a pretty high level view. There's not a whole bunch of graphs and so on and so forth in it. As a communicator, I think that's an important thing, and it's probably a theme that carries through with this work. So I'll get cracking straight away. This presentation is about Soil CRC project 1.4.005, which has a long convoluted title like a lot of research projects, but we affectionately call the risk reward tool. As I introduced earlier today, WMG is a grower group, and we delivered this project hand in hand and led it with the Courage and Farm Improvement Group in Western Australia and Central West Farming Systems in New South Wales, and obviously Charles Sturt University with Mark Frost. I also believe that this is the first Soil CRC project to break the system in the sense that it was led by a grower group as opposed to a research institution. So that's a testament to the importance, I think, of program one, certainly within the Soil CRC, and getting out what you put in, which is what Michael talks about pretty often. With the risk reward tool project, our aim was practical and twofold. We want to help farmers weigh up risk and reward quickly and credibly, and help grower groups as the conduit to farmers communicate research in a format that matches the decisions that are made on farm. And so I think that this same approach, while it's been tested by grower groups like ourselves, is useful for researchers, advisors and other organisations certainly. So to set the scene at the moment, I'm just going to let you know what the problem is. Oh, I missed. Apologies. What the problem is we set out to solve. So farming decisions are obviously getting bigger and more complex year after year. Most farmers do their due diligence and check multiple sources before changing any practice or investing in something. And that's strength and resilience in action, I think. One of our participating farmers, Brendan, pulled me aside and summed it up for me in a single line that's on there. And he said, "You know what, Simon, farming is getting more and more risky every single year. We're talking big decisions and even bigger dollars every single year." And so I think it's our responsibility as in the industry to make what we provide practical, understandable and believable, and grounded in local systems and scale. So too often we hand over long and technical documents and research papers, and those formats change from project to project as well. And that slows our farmers down, and it blunts the impact these projects and research outputs have. So the question that we had at the start of this project is, who's best placed to fix this problem? And where should a tool live, if a tool is what it is, to make a real difference to farmers? And that's why we centred the project on grower groups themselves. And so, if you didn't know already, I'm pretty passionate about grower groups. And grower groups, they sit right in the middle of any kind of communication with farmers. We're local and we're trusted. We translate research for our communities. And at the same time, we also deal with reasonably high staff turnover, and many project officers are early in their career. So that's a problem that we're dealing with at the same time. So if we want adoption from our practices, we need to support next users inside grower groups with a structure that holds up when teams change, so that farmers can keep getting clear and consistent and useful information from the projects we deliver. At the first project meeting in Adelaide in 2022, the project team put together plenty of blue sky ideas. If anyone's been involved in a conversation with myself or Nathan or Hannah Beth or any of the program one scenarios, there's a lot of stuff that gets thrown around. There's a lot of pie in the sky kind of things that happen. We pulled up ideas of a star rating system, maybe a choice style review site, or maybe even app that farmers could use. However, through that meeting and follow-up meetings, we landed somewhere more durable. And so we thought, let's build capacity and capability inside grower groups as opposed to trying to make another widget or another tool. And that's going to strengthen the conduit to the farmers. It's going to strengthen our grower groups, and it can lead to improvement that outlasts any website or widget, in our opinion. So once we'd agreed that capability and capacity building were the priority, the next step was to design something that was simple and fits how farmers decide. So I'm going to show you now the framework that we built. The structure mirrors how farmers learn and decide. So we landed on a 3-tiered model supported by a writing guide and onboarding materials for anyone that's using these templates and systems. The infograph format is the top layer and for awareness and broadening, so it's how to make an infographic. And it's a quick read for our farmers to decide if the research is relevant. Then there's a synthesis report, hopefully with a Goldilocks ratio of enough information and detail to picture fit and effort and implications, but without getting too bogged down in detail. And finally, there's the full report, which is looking at the technical depth when a farmer's ready to trial or adopt. And critically on top of this is the writing guide that we produced to go with this. I think that's almost more important than the models that we built. The guide sits behind the 3-tiered formats and is the engine room. So it's got 2 parts. First is called Which Report for What Purpose? So readers can pick the right format for where farmers are in their decision-making process. And second, a practical report writing guide, which is a step-by-step prompt on what to include and how to write so that farmers can compare options and act. It standardises and builds trust. There's clear scope and method and where it fits and where it doesn't. It's an onboarding tool for new staff and can be a quality anchor when teams change or when partners co-author. So that's the structure and the guide that powers it. The obvious next step was to let farmers shape it, and here is what some farmers told us. Initially, across early 2023, we surveyed 60 farmers from 3 grower groups. The steer was clear, obviously short, visual summaries to save time, local relevance and real context were important, and plain English return on investment and trust in messengers was also important. So the survey results helped us understand farmers' decision-making processes and allowed us to widen what we mean by risk and reward. Risk is not only dollars for farmers, it also includes agronomic, environmental and social uncertainties, and reward is more than yield. It includes efficiency, stewardship and social licence as well. Each of the groups then blind user tested the 3 different formats in one-on-one sessions with our farmers, and that also included me trying to upskill the grower group members about what a blind user testing actually looked like. So the 2 quotes I've included on the slide are directly from farmers who are involved in the user testing process. First of all, it's the pros and cons of practice. You have to weigh these things up as a farmer and think of risk, reward and return on investment. And secondly, having risk and reward both there and visible is very important. And I hear this more often than not. There's just as much, if not more, in understanding what went wrong or didn't work. So including risk is really important. At the same time, user testing with our farmers, we reviewed how groups were writing up trials and included fixes into the writing guide. As I noted previously, each grower group put the package to work on real projects, learned how farmers used it, and noted what helped and what didn't. So here's what we learned. Each group applied the templates to a real project. We ran short briefings, kept process diaries, and did user testing that mirrors how farmers actually read. So they started with the infographic, moved on to the synthesis report, and then went to the final report if they needed that information. 3 findings stood out, and they match the headlines on this slide, obviously. So clear structure builds trust and improves clarity. Consistency helps across staff, projects and partners, and synthesis saves time and improves decision-making. And we're not talking about dumbing the information down at all. We're talking about communicating it well, which is a completely different thing. In the idea that we have less time. So these findings obviously point to clear changes in how we work at the moment, and they matter beyond the West Midlands Group and the grower groups that were associated with this project. The next slide explains why it matters for grower groups and why the principles travel. Last lot. So for grower groups, this is about doing the core job better. We are the next users. We sit between research and farmers. Our role is to filter, add context, compare options and present usable choices to our members, to our farmers. The writing guide's an onboarding and continuity tool that keeps that standard alive when the teams change. While this is just a grower group perspective on how we're using the risk reward tool, for researchers, whether seasoned or just getting started in this career, we think the writing guide could mean a refresher on communication with farmers, possibly shortening the path from paper to on-farm trials and further to adoption. And so I'm just going to close now with what's next. So we're working on more testing with our Soil CRC extension packages project. There's another project that we're leading with CFIG, Air EP and Riv Plains. And for those that were at the adoption meeting yesterday, Felicity talked about this, but there are plans to run a training workshop or webinar with myself and to include ongoing peer-to-peer support within the Soil CRC adoption plan. For those interested, the tool will be available from the Soil CRC website, so Olivia has let me know in the Knowledge Hub. Certainly I'll field as many questions as possible on it. Come and talk to me if you want more information about it. Lastly, we're pushing to treat communication as part of the research process and not an add-on. In wrapping up, this is the line I would like you to take away from me talking at you. Are we presenting research in a way that makes it adoptable? If we keep the farmer's decision process in mind all of the time, as we do as grower groups, and keep grower groups at the centre of this conversation as well as the conduit between research and these farmers, we're going to see clear choices, faster learning and better outcomes. And so, yeah, thanks everyone for your time, and I know I've gone over a smidge, but I'm happy to take a question or two.
Thank you, Simon. Stay here. Okay. We have time for one question. I went that way last time. I think you've overwhelmed them.
Nice. The dream was to have a presentation with no questions, so this is literally happening as I dreamed about it last night. Oh no, Nate's got a question over there. There we go.
I'll yell out, Simon.
Yeah.
How do you ensure consistency in return on investment?
That's a good question, and I thought that was the one that I didn't want to answer. Same with the economic analysis side of it. This is certainly the most difficult part of this project, was trying to include the economic analysis and ROI and that kind of conversation in it. In the report, in the writing guide itself, we have included a section on a small partial budget and an economic analysis and how that can be completed in a kind of simple format. I'm not going to say that this guide has the answers for that, and certainly we've been able to include a BCA tool and that kind of conversation in our next project, the extension packages project, and so I think we'll get further answers there. But at the same time, I appreciate your question, because every time we talk to farmers, and I noted this morning as well, dollars and cents count, return on investment counts, and so it's something that I'm cognizant that West Midlands Group don't do enough of, is including economic analysis in all our reports, and it's certainly something that needs to happen more often. And so, you know, that's a very roundabout way of not answering your question, I think.
Okay.